رحم الله من يقرأ سورة الفاتحة مسبوقة بالصلوات على محمد وآل محمد. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وبه نستعين إنه خير ناصر ومعين. ثم الصلاة والسلام والتحية والإكرام على سيدنا ومولانا أبي القاسم محمد. وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين. السلام عليك يا أبا عبد الله وعلى الأرواح التي حلت بفنائك. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار، ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتكم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين وعلى 9 المعصومين من ذرية الحسين، واللعنة الدائمة على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال إمام زين العابدين علي بن الحسين عليه السلام في دعائه: اللهم صل على محمد وآله وبلغ بإيماني أكمل الإيمان واجعل يقيني أفضل اليقين وانتهي بنيتي إلى أحسن النيات وبعملي إلى أحسن الأعمال. Dear brothers and sisters in Iman, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. In these few nights that we have been together so far, our discussion has been on this dua of Makarim al-Akhlaq, of acquiring those beautiful virtues that the Ahlul Bayt teach us and that we have to inculcate in ourselves and develop in ourselves and train ourselves to have. And we said that this is in line, these virtues are in line with the very creation of Allah, and they are the purpose for our creation. And last night we talked about the first 3 lines of this dua, where we said, the Imam says, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa alih wa balligh bi imani akmal al-iman waj'al yaqini afdal al-yaqin. And we said that if we want to acquire those virtues, if we want to have good and beautiful akhlaq, then we must first begin with Iman. Said that Iman is the foundation upon which good akhlaq can be found. If there is no Iman, if there is no belief in the source of goodness, which is Allah, the alternative belief would be that this creation was created by chance or was created on its own. And so there is no source for goodness which creates this creation, which produces the world, the physical world that we see around us. And if we don't have this foundation, this fundamental belief in Allah, then there would be no source for goodness. That's the first concept, the first idea. The second is that once we accept that there is a source for all goodness, and all beauty in the world, which is Allah. We have in the ahadith of the Ahlul Bayt, Imam Hassan, our second Imam, Sallu ala Muhammad wa It is reported that he says, Inna Allah jamilun wa yuhibbul jamal. Allah is beautiful and He loves beauty. Allah is beautiful and is the source of beauty, and therefore He loves beauty in His creation. So whatever beauty that we see, whatever praise that we give within creation, that praise and that beauty and that goodness ultimately goes back to Allah. In fact, this is the meaning behind Surah Al-Fatiha that we read every day, a number of times every day. It's the meaning behind the very first verse of Surah Al-Fatiha. We say, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, Alhamdu Lillahi Rabbil Alameen. Praise is for Allah, Rabbil Alameen. Not just this praise that I'm doing, but every possible praise that any creature can do of Allah's creation ultimately goes back to Allah. So Allah is the source of all goodness, Allah is the source of all beauty, and Allah is the source of all truth. So we begin with Iman. Not just in belief in Allah, but in the means by which we acquire those akhlaq. We believe in Allah as the source of goodness, and then the means by which we reach that source of goodness, which also comes from Allah. The means being Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. If we did not have these means, if we did not believe in the Prophet and the progeny and the Ahlul Bayt, all of whom connect us back to Allah, then you can have a belief in something being good. And I can have a belief in something being good. But I can never make you think what I believe is good, and you can never make me think what you believe is good. There would be no criteria, no means for us to engage in a debate about this being good or that being good. And this is what we see in our society today. There is no common ground, there is no groundwork upon which one person can say what you are doing is wrong and what I am doing is right. Some person feels what they're doing is right, is good, and therefore they do it. Another person feels what they're doing is good, and then they do it. There's no common ground upon which we can argue and we can say, well, this is good because of such and such reason. This is bad because of such and such reason. So we begin with Iman. And then, once our Iman gets ever stronger and stronger, once we work on that Iman, then we get to the state of yaqeen, of certainty, of knowledge, and of seeing into and having that insight into Allah's creation. The next issue, the next concept and idea that Imam As-Sajjad, the next reality that Imam As-Sajjad prays for is an-niyya. He says, وَانْتَهِ بِنِيَّتِي إِلَىٰ أَحْسَنِ النِّيَّاتِ. Niyya, now we're starting to get into actions. Right? We're trying to ultimately reach to those virtues that we have to see within ourselves, that we have to produce within ourselves, that we have to transform ourselves into having. And so we talk about an-niyya. Niyya is that intention that we all have whenever we are doing something. Whether we verbalize it or we bring it into our mind or not. What are the reasons for which we do our actions? What are the reasons for which we do what we do? It is said that niyya is the basis for every ibadah that we do. For every act of worship that we are obligated to do, we have to first have the right intention. But this is a fiqhi issue, this is an issue with regard to the laws of Islam. You have to set your niyyah in the right order. Every ibadah, whether it's salat, whether it's sawm, whatever type of ibadah that we do, it has to be with the right intention. Otherwise, it won't be accepted. There are, of course, other actions within the Sharia, the mu'amalat, the transactions that we have that, there is a debate. Do these need niyyah or do they not? For example, if I get into a monetary transaction, if I sell you something, well, do I really need the niyyah of getting closer to Allah? That's a different point. But if it is an act of worship, we have to begin with qurbatan, what? Qurbatan ilallah. When we want to do salat, we have to do qurbatan ilallah. Now this niyyah, as we said, as we discussed last night, this niyyah, just like our souls and ourselves, this intention that we have can have multiple levels. And in fact, there is a hadith of the Ahlul Bayt which teach us that some of us may be automatically inclined towards following Allah's command. Some of us, Allah has given and granted the blessing of being already close to Him and having the right intentions. Some of us really love worship. Some of us have to struggle. Some of us have to begin this path of becoming to love Allah's worship. There is a hadith of the Prophet Muhammad al-Mustafa sallallahu alayhi wa. And from this hadith we can draw how we can get to that point where we love Allah's worship and our intentions are pure for Allah. The Prophet is reported as saying, "Man tatayyaba lillahi ja'a yawm al-qiyamati wa rihuhu atyabu min rih al-misk." So we all, for example, the hadith itself is talking about perfume, using some sort of fragrance or cologne. And the Prophet, of course, this was a sunnah of the Prophet himself. The Prophet is saying, whoever wants to use a perfume or make themselves smell good, if they do it with the intention of Allah, of getting closer to Allah, on the Day of Judgment, they will come with the most beautiful of smells. Tib al-misk, the smell of musk, this most beautiful smell that was alive in the time of the Prophet, that was living in the minds and experiences of those people. وَمَنْ تَطَيَّبَ لِغَيْرِ اللَّهِ جَاءَ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ وَرِيحُهُ أَنْتَنُ مِنَ الْجِيفَةِ. And whoever gives perfume to themselves, to their body, places this sort of fragrance on their body for anything other than Allah, on the Day of Judgment, this person will come and their body will stink worse than a corpse, than a carcass. What the Prophet, what we can extrapolate from this hadith is that we all, of course, want to smell good. Right? When we are in a gathering, it's our social obligation for us to smell good. This is what the sunnah of the Prophet. And it might not even be with the explicit intention that we want to, for example, do it for Allah. But if we create this conscious effort within ourselves, we think that, yes, I may want to place this perfume on my body, this fragrance on my body, and it may be for not embarrassing myself and not, say, for example, making other people repelled from myself. But also, I want to do this. I want to place this fragrance on my body so that I get closer to Allah. We add that intention of proximity to Allah to the intentions of the things that we do on a regular basis. then we can become among those who do these things, these normal actions that we have for Allah. So it's a process. I say, for example, I want to give my children something that they love, that they like. I want to, for example, do something good for my family. I want to, for example, do something good for myself. I want to eat something nice or something delicious. I want to do something something that I like to do. But then I add on this intention that what I want to do, this good thing that I want to do for myself or for my family, I do it with the intention of Allah. Slowly and slowly, once we get into this habit of having this additional intention, slowly and slowly we habituate ourselves into thinking about Allah and having those right intentions. This is a process. No one gets to the final stage from the very beginning. This is a process, and just like any other skill that we have in our lives, we have to work at it. Right intentions is that part of that process that we have to work at. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. And once we figure out the process, then we have to see where we're going. What is our goal? And in this regard as well, we can follow the guidance of the Ahlul Bayt. What is that goal that we're trying to reach? What does it mean when Imam Zain al-Abidin says, وَانْتَهِي بِنِيَّتِي إِلَىٰ أَحْسَنِ النِّيَّاتِ? What does it mean for our niyat to be ahsan? Sometimes we set our goal as something maybe reachable. Right? We think that, for example, because of our narrow horizons, we think that, for example, when if I were to do something and I just add on the niyyah of doing it for Allah, this intention of doing it for Allah, and then I automatically think about it, then that becomes a great intention. That becomes that pinnacle of intentions that I could possibly have. But this is very limited. This is not what Imam Zain al-Abidin is talking about. What is that nihaya, that ultimate and final possibility for our intentions that we can possibly reach? What the Ahlul Bayt, the presence and the existence of the Ahlul Bayt do for us is they allow us to see and experience what it means for someone to have the most sincerest of intentions. What is that ultimate limit that a human being can possibly reach? And this is what Allah refers to in His Quran. Allah talks about an-niyya in this way. وَاصْبِرْ نَفْسَكَ مَعَ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَهُ. Allah says, and have forbearance. Make your nafs forbear and have patience with those people who call to Allah, not just during their salat, not just in those moments when they remember God, but in every single waking moment of their lives. يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُمْ بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ, in the night and in the day. Every single waking moment, and even when they go to sleep. يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَهُ, and they only intend. They don't intend this world. They don't even intend running away from the punishment and the hellfire of Allah. They don't even intend the rewards of Allah or the blessings of Allah. يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَهُ. They only intend Allah and His happiness, His pleasure. On the opposite side, if we are unsure about what the significance of niyyah is, Allah explains ghafla. What's interesting is that in the Quran, just like in this dua Makarim al-Akhlaq, the reason why I'm focusing on just the first 4 lines, so far in these last 4 nights, we've talked about 4 lines of this dua. So you have to bear with me a little bit. You have to have that sabr and that forbearance. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. But the reason is a significant one, and it's a one that you can find in many of our du'as and in fact in the Quran itself. Our religious texts, our du'as, the Quran, they will talk about some issue that is relevant, some issue that they're trying to convey in a very general way in the beginning. And then the rest of the Quran or the rest of the du'a brings out all of the nuances, all of the details of that initial general point. In other words, if we are to truly understand the depth and the significance of these first 4 lines of Dua Makarim al-Akhlaq, then if we truly understand all of the details, then we would understand the rest of the dua. Then we would understand what it means to have proper akhlaq, and we wouldn't even need to continue on with the rest of the dua. But what Imam Zain al-Abidin says, and what he does in this dua, is he sets out what our goal is: correct iman, correct yaqeen, correct intentions, and then correct amal. And then the rest of the dua explains to us what this means. And the Quran does the very same thing. The Quran talks in one section about shirk. And he said, and the Quran, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about explicit shirk. The shirk during the Prophet's time. Polytheism, where people would worship idols and so on. Explicit shirk. And Allah says, that shirk, stay away from that shirk. Don't commit that shirk. Then in another part of the Quran, Allah says, don't even go near those idols. In a third part of the Quran, Allah says, shirk, don't think about it in a superficial way. It's not just about worshipping idols. Rather, listening to shaitan is a form of shirk. So Allah gets deeper and deeper. He goes from the superficial idea of what shirk is, and he gets deeper and deeper. Then it becomes relevant to all of us. Shirk may be something. When we think about shirk, polytheism, we think about it as something that was, maybe happened a long time ago. But when Allah talks about shirk as listening to shaitan, well, that's not anymore something that's just the polytheists did. That's not something that, for example, people did 1,400 years ago. No, shirk would be relevant to all of us. We all fall into those moments when we listen to shaitan. And then Allah takes it even a step further. He says, no, shirk, don't think about it even in terms of listening to shaitan, but rather shirk, one of the deepest forms of shirk is ghafla, is being neglectful of Allah, of thinking and doing our actions for other than Allah, for having an intention other than Allah. And so Allah explains, He says, لَقَدْ ذَرَأْنَا لِجَهَنَّمَ كَثِيرًا مِنَ الْجِنِّ وَالْإِنسِ. We have filled the hellfire with many of humankind and of jinn. أُولَٰئِكَ كَالْأَنْعَامِ بَلْ هُمْ أَضَلُّ أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْغَافِلُونَ. These people with whom hellfire is being filled, these are like an'am. These are like the animals and the cattle. And then Allah explains, what is the characteristic of these people? أُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْغَافِلُونَ. So shirk then becomes not something that is, for other people. Shirk becomes relevant even for those who are pious, even for those who think about Allah. If you are negligent and think about do things other than Allah, regardless of whether you're listening to shaitan or not, if you are neglectful of Allah, then that is a form of shirk. That is a deeper form of shirk. And the ghafla then is the opposite of that intention that Allah wants us to have. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Again, he said that the Ahlul Bayt and the Quran, they teach us. Through their words, they tell us what the least that we could do, and they also show us that the most and the highest extent possible of human potential. The Ahlul Bayt are the pinnacle of what a human can possibly be, and even beyond that. through the tawfiq of Allah, the Ahlul Bayt show us what sincerity is all about. What does it mean for us to reach that final point in our intention? And in fact, this is a dua of Imam Sajjad. In another dua, Imam Sajjad says, As'aluka ya Allah, As'aluka hubbak. Oh Allah, first I ask and I pray to you for your love. Wa hubbu man yuhibbuk. Not just your love, not just that what I think your love could mean, but the love of those who love you. وَحُبُّ كُلَّ عَمَلٍ يُوصِلُنِي إِلَىٰ قُرْبِكَ. And the love of every action that can lead me towards you, that can bring me closer and closer towards you. And this is what Amirul Mu'mineen talks about. This is what Amirul Mu'mineen shows us within his actions. In the munajat of Amirul Mu'mineen, we have time and time again Amirul Mu'mineen looking towards Allah, speaking to Allah, showing us what it means for someone to pray to Allah and ask for Allah with the utmost level of sincerity. Amir al-Mu'mineen says, "Oh Allah, I don't ask you for your blessings. I don't pray to you just because I want to get to your blessings. I don't even pray to you running away from your punishment. Ya Allah, Ilahi ma abadtuka khawfan يا إلهي ما عبدتك خوفا من عقابك ولا رغبة في ثوابك ولكن وجدتك أهلا للعبادة فعبدتك." نعم حيدري صلوا على محمد وآله. Oh Allah, I look towards you and I worship you because you are worthy of being worshipped. You are the source of creation on all of that goodness. And because you are the source of goodness, you are worthy of being worshipped. That is why I worship you. There is no goodness in the world except that is sourced in Allah. That is the foundation of our very being. And so Allah, I turn towards you and I worship you. And this is what we learn from the Ahlul Bayt. This is that very sincerest, that highest level of sincerity that we can possibly reach. What the Ahlul Bayt do for us is they broaden our horizons. They broaden those possibilities of what we can do. And they also show us how we can reach that possibility. Imam says, Ya Ilahi as'aluka hubbak وَحُبَّ مَنْ يُحِبُّكَ وَحُبَّ كُلَّ عَمَلٍ يُوصِلُنِي إِلَيْكَ. Oh Allah, give me the love of all of those a'mal, all of those actions that bring me closer towards you. And so it's not enough, brothers and sisters, it's not enough for us to think that we are mu'min, that we have this iman. It's not enough even for us to have this yaqeen. It's not even enough for us to have those sincerest of intentions until we bring those intentions and we actualize them. We bring them and we act upon them. And therefore we have the worship of Amirul Mu'mineen as our guide. Just as Allah has created this world, even though Allah knew exactly what will happen in this world, but Allah creates this world and allows for it to become actualized. And in that same way, we have to take our intentions and we have to produce them and bring them into this world. We have to show what it means for us to have sincere intentions. Let us turn now towards Karbala. Karbala is a lesson for all of us because Karbala shows us what it means for a person not only to purify their intentions, but to act on them. There were people in the camp of Yazid, in the camp of Umar ibn Sa'd, who knew the truth and the sincerity and the goodness of Imam Hussein. And when it was presented to them, and when they realized it, They did nothing but run away. They didn't act on that truth. And then there were people like Habib. Imam Hussein, it is said, waited for Habib. It is said that on the day of Ashura, Imam Hussein was handing out the standards and the flags to his different commanders. He handed one to Abbas and to the other commanders that he had. So he's handing these standards to each one of his commanders, and yet a standard lays on the ground. And his companions, the companions of Imam Hussein, looked to the Imam and they asked the Imam, Ya Aba Abdullah, who are you giving this standard to? Are you waiting for someone? And it is also said that Lady Zainab looks to her brother. At the same time, she looks to her brother, and it is reported that Lady Zainab looks to her brother and sees her brother's army. It was not a large army, brothers and sisters. This was only a band of few men. And Lady Zainab looks to her brother and she says to him, Ya Aba Abdullah, are you really going to fight this large army, this huge enemy with just these small band of men? Ya Aba Abdullah, is there anyone else who can come and support you? And Imam Hussein turns to them, turns to Lady Zainab and says, yes, I am waiting for one more person. I am waiting for my Habib. Imam Hussein is trying to tell us, don't think about the quantity, think about the quality of men that I have. Think about the quality of men that I have trained. The sincerity of these men. It is said that Habib looked to his wife in Kufa. As Habib was still in Kufa, he looks to his wife and he says, oh my wife, we have spent this long life together. Oh my wife, what if I were to go to Karbala and support Imam Hussein? Wife of Habib looks to Habib and says, Ya Habib, without you I will be willing to eat even the very dirt. But oh Habib, if you are thinking of leaving the side of Imam Hussein, if you are thinking of staying in this house, then give me your sword and I will go and defend the Imam. Give me the opportunity and I will go and defend the Imam. I don't want anything in this world. If I see my Imam shedding his blood and I am not standing there defending him. And Habib says, it's okay. I was just testing you. I was just testing your sincerity and your intentions. I am going to go and support my Imam. I will never leave his side until every drop of my blood has been spilled for the Imam. And so Habib comes, and Imam Hussein accepts him. And Imam Hussein says, Ya Habib, where have you been? I have been waiting for you. I have been longing for you. And yet there's another story on the day of Ashura. Another woman on the day of Ashura, another lady who gives her sacrifice freely, and she shows us, and she shows the rest of the companions what it means to sincerely give their lives and everything they have for Imam Hussein. Let us turn to Lady Zainab and her sacrifice. Lady Zainab, it is said that the night before Ashura, she looks at her two sons, Own and Muhammad. She looks at them from the farthest point of the tent and she goes close to her two sons. She says, oh my sons. She prepares them, she combs their hair, she speaks lovingly towards them, and she prepares them for the next stage. She says, oh my sons, are you ready for the battle? Oh my sons, are you ready to protect your Imam? It is said that that night she spent in the presence of her sons. But then on the day of Ashura,
She prepares her sons to go out into the battle, and she sends them off. And they fight a valiant fight. First, Muhammad goes and he fights the enemy with all of his force and all of his strength, and he cuts them down. And then Muhammad falls. And Imam Hussein brings his body back to the tent. And then On goes and he fights a valiant fight, and he falls, and the enemy surrounds him, and then Imam Hussein goes and brings On back to the tent. And yet there is no sign of Lady Zainab. Lady Zainab is nowhere to be seen. Maybe Lady Zainab is trying to tell us that we Ahlul Bayt, when we give a sacrifice to Allah, we never look back. We give our sacrifice to Allah with that most sincerest of intentions, and we never look back. And so she does not go towards her two sons, her two loving sons. This is Lady Zainab. And when the day of Ashura comes, and when it is time for Imam Hussein to go out into the battle, Lady Zainab does not leave his side. It is said that only Lady Zainab lives only a year after the events of Ashura and Karbala. She had given her brother Imam Hussein, she had lost her father Ali ibn Abi Talib, she had lost her mother Fatima Zahra, and the Prophet of Allah. What else is there to live for? Who else can she sacrifice? وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مُنْقَلَبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ.